It's hard to make a movie. They're expensive, they take a lot of time, you need a lot of people to get the many aspects done, and then you might release that movie only for it to flop or bomb. Some movies take a long time to get made in the first place. There are a lot of factors that go into the pre-production and production, getting the right director or cast, perfecting the script, agreeing on a suitable budget. These elements and more can cause arguments, discussions, tweaks and changes. So here are some examples of films that either went through development hell or are still going through it today. Akira. The animated movie Akira came out back in the 80s, and in many eyes it started the big push for more Japanese anime and manga. It certainly introduced many Western eyes to the format. After the hit that was the 1988 anime film, Sony acquired the rights and planned to make a live action version of the manga. But for uncertain reasons they never moved forward with the project. In 2002, Warner Bros. Got hold of the rights in a 7-figure deal. Over the years, the live action project had at least 5 different directors attached to it, and 7 writers. There were arguments about budget and the handling of Japanese people and culture by an American film studio. The studio spent millions of dollars on pre-production of a film they never even made, and that's a lot. Finally, in 2025, Warner Bros. Had enough and declined to renew their ownership of the rights. The rights then reverted to the original writer of the manga. It remains to be seen if we'll ever see a live-action Akira, and I encourage you to look up the history of this one because there's a lot I've brushed over here. In 1989 there was a comic book called Alien vs Predator, which was popular and spawned sequels, novelizations and more. Then, as a subtle little nod, an alien skull was included in the background of Predator 2 in 1990. Based on the first comic book run, writer Peter Brigg went on to write a spec script for a potential live-action adaptation, and he successfully pitched it to 20th Century Fox in 1991. Fox never moved forward with the project until 2002, once they were done with their mainline Alien films. In that gap, video games were made, satiating fans and adding more desire for a movie adaptation. Producer John Davis started to read scripts and wanted the film to be set on Earth. He also wanted an original concept and approach, distinct from other Alien vs Predator stories already out there. Naturally, there was some hesitation from all involved. Both the producers of the Predator franchise and those of the Alien franchise were concerned about merging the two into one. James Cameron was initially getting to work on a new Alien movie, but dropped out when he learnt of Alien vs Predator's production, citing a lack of interest in milking the franchise. Paul W.S. Anderson came along with a story he'd been working on for over 8 years, and finally John Davis was happy to give it the go-ahead. That film did get made, and while it wasn't very good, it is entertaining and a lot better than its sequel. Based on the Japanese manga, Alita Battle Angel was initially announced in 2003 with James Cameron attached to write and direct the film, but production slowed down when Cameron became busy with the TV series Dark Angel, and then his documentary Aliens of the Deep. In 2005 it was officially announced that the film had stalled due to Cameron's busy schedule, and that it would resume after his work on his next project, which turned out to be Avatar. Cameron then began work on another film called The Dive, delaying Alita yet again. He confirmed in December of 2009 that a script had been completed for the film. In 2010, he claimed Alita was still on his radar, but he pushed it aside yet again in favour of the back-to-back sequels to Avatar. He reiterated that he intended to make it, claiming he loved the concept too much to hand off to another filmmaker. In 2015, Cameron brought in Robert Rodriguez to condense and focus in the script of the film. He was later impressed with Rodriguez's work and officially handed him the director's position. The only problem was that 20th Century Fox wasn't happy with the budget. They wanted less money put into it. Finally, the film was scheduled to release in 2018, but was delayed to 2019. Avatar released in 2009 and it was a massive success if you didn't know. James Cameron had plans for further films which he wanted to get to immediately and back to back, but first he had to focus in on the narrative and really get the script right. The first of the sequels was initially scheduled to release in December 2014, but because Cameron was struggling with the script, it kept getting pushed back. Fox then announced production was to begin in 2016. To help write this first sequel, and the following two, Cameron assembled a group of well-known and renowned writers to get together and co-write each film with him. The team got together and planned the whole franchise out before each of them was assigned a specific film to work on. The writing process was hard and arduous. At one point, Cameron threatened to fire the writing team because he was either frustrated by or disappointed by their work on the films. Finally, writing was completed in 2017, with design work already commencing. Then, there was the problem of filming it. Due to the extensive use of CGI and motion capture, and in the sequel's case an extensive use of water, the cast and crew had to get creative with the process, forcing many of them to go through arduous training for underwater filmmaking, and for them to test the equipment and tech in such conditions. Then, in 2020, something called the COVID pandemic happened, causing production to halt. The film finally released in December 2022, 13 years after the original. Hollywood was trying to make a Barbie movie back in the 1980s. Then, in 2014, owners of the Barbie brand, Mattel, signed a deal with Sony, with plans to start production later that year. Over the course of a year, several writers were brought on board, each submitting their own take on the script, and famed producer Amy Pascal joined the project too. In 2016, comedian and actor Amy Schumer signed on to star in the movie, based on a script by Hillary Winston. She even rewrote parts of the script herself along with her sister. She then left the project in 2017, citing schedule differences. But in 2023, she claimed she and the producers had creative differences, so she departed. Producers then targeted Anne Hathaway to star and signed director Alethea Jones to direct, hoping that would help draw in Hathaway. And they continued to rewrite the script. In 2018, Sony lost the rights to the film, which then landed in the hands of Warner Bros., essentially restarting the project from scratch, with all attached names now gone. That's when Margot Robbie was approached for the lead role, and at the time director Patty Jenkins was considered. Margot Robbie officially signed on to star and produce. She then personally pitched the movie to Warner Bros., claiming it would make $1 billion and would be like Jurassic Park. Very bold claims indeed. Margot approached Greta Gerwig to write, who then only agreed to do so long as her husband could also write. In 2021, Gerwig signed on to direct the film too, and that's when things really started to roll. After the success of the first Beetlejuice film in 1988, two sequels were fast-tracked. In 1990, Tim Burton approached another writer to get his take on a Beetlejuice sequel, in which the character goes to Hawaii. Stars Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder both agreed to do it, so long as Tim Burton would direct. Keaton and Burton then became preoccupied with Batman Returns. Burton was still interested in 1991 though, and approached more writers to work on the script. In 1993, the producers continued to have script work done, not settling on a single idea or concept. Eventually, the Hawaiian concept and the ideas in that script became too old for certain cast members to take on without some major changes or recasting. In 2011, Warner Bros. Renewed interest in the sequel and brought on another writer to come up with a script for them. The writer, Seth Grahame-Smith, also signed on to produce, and insisted that Michael Keaton be involved. In 2015, Grahame-Smith confirmed the script was complete and that they had 3 key names of Burton, Keaton and Ryder attached. In 2017, another writer was brought aboard, and then a year later Warner Bros. Confirmed that all plans for the sequel were scrapped, only for everything to be back up and running in 2022, with a new production studio attached. Burton then came up with the story for the film, and that's when the film finally started to morph into what would become Beetlejuice. In 2008, Take-Two, the publisher of the hit BioShock, confirmed a deal had been made with Universal to turn the game into a movie, written by John Logan and directed by Gore Verbinski. Due to budgeting concerns, the movie was delayed from its initial 2010 planned release, and in 2009, Verbinski dropped out because the studio planned on filming overseas as a means of reducing the budget, and that would have made it tough on Verbinski's schedule. In 2010, a new director was attached, and Verbinski was in the producer role, but budgeting continued to be an issue. They planned to rate the film R, but the risk there was that it would limit the reach and appeal of the film and therefore jeopardize the potential income at the box office. Studios were reluctant to support the film as a result. In 2013, Ken Levine, main man behind Bioshock, confirmed that the film had been cancelled. Due to recent big budget disappointments like Watchmen, the studio was simply too reluctant to sink so much money into Bioshock. The budget was said to be $200 million, and the studio offered Verbinski $80 million instead, which he turned down. Universal also proposed toning down of the R rating, which Verbinski also refused to do. Universal then brought in a new director who was willing to work on a smaller budget and some script changes, but Levine and Verbinski felt this director was not a good fit, hence the reason Verbinski chose to cancel the project. In 2022, Netflix revealed they were working on an adaptation of the game with Francis Lawrence attached to direct and Michael Green writing it. The script continued to be worked on throughout 2023. Then in 2024, it was confirmed that due to changes in Netflix management, the film's budget had been reduced, so more script alterations were required. Last we heard, in early 2025, was that the film was still being reworked with new writers attached, and that Lawrence was still intending to direct it, only after his latest Hunger Games film was done. Marvel regained the rights to the character Blade back in 2011, and were actively working on their own take on the comic book character in 2013. In 2019, actor Mahershala Ali approached Kevin Feige in Marvel, showcasing his desire to portray the character in a future film, which was then officially announced a few months later. The film went through several directors and writers over the years, each one failing to come up with a satisfying concept or script. This meant the film kept getting delayed, and actor Mahershala Ali slowly became more disgruntled with pre-production on it. After all, he isn't getting any younger. Then there was the writer's strike in 2023, which halted all production on the film for the time being. As of 2024, a new writer was attached to the film, but Marvel then removed the film from their schedule entirely, suggesting they might have given up on the project. The Metal Gear Solid games, created by the legendary Hideo Kojima, were practically made to be turned into films. Kojima announced back in 2006 that a film adaptation was in the works. Actor and writer David Hayter, who starred in the games, submitted a script for a potential film adaptation, but that was turned down. The studio was considering several big-name directors to sit behind the camera, as well as some big-name actors to star in the iconic franchise. In 2010, producer Michael Warner announced that production had halted after Konami feared a poor performance could harm the franchise. And in 2012, Kojima ruled himself out of writing and/or directing a film adaptation of his games. Later that year, Kojima announced that Arad Productions had agreed to make a film along with Columbia Pictures. Director Jordan Vogt Roberts was then recruited to direct in 2025. He continued to work on the script in 2017. Several writers worked on the script throughout this period, and in 2020, Oscar Isaac was officially cast as Solid Snake in the movie, having previously expressed interest in the role. In 2024, his involvement became a little unclear when rumours suggested he dropped out, and there's been no reports, claims, rumours or announcements since. So, is this movie still happening? A film adaptation of Uncharted was announced back in 2008. Actor Nathan Fillion really wanted the role of Nathan Drake and began a campaign for it. Fillion then made a short, fan-made film showcasing himself in the role. David O. Russell was attached early on to direct, and several writers had a go at the script for what was supposed to be an action-adventure adaptation of the first game. In 2010, Mark Wahlberg commented on his potential involvement, confirming he was in the movie. But David O. Russell later dropped out in 2011 to work on another film. From 2012 onwards, several directors boarded and then left the project, and several writers had a bash at writing it. Then in 2015, Mark Wahlberg dropped out and casting for a new lead took place. In 2016, the film was removed from Sony's release schedule due to the lack of an official script or director. Sean Levy was then brought on to direct, and Ryan Reynolds was vying for the lead role, but other commitments made it impossible. Tom Holland was then cast as a young Nathan Drake in 2017, confirming that the film was in fact a prequel to the games. Then, Sean Levy left the project. Several new directors were brought on as were writers until 2020 when Ruben Fleischer became the official director. And they even got Mark Wahlberg back on board, but due to the passage of time, he was no longer young enough to play Nathan Drake, so instead he took on the part of the older mentor figure, Sully. And those are just some of the films that have been in development hell over the years. There are a lot out there, and I've had to brush over so many details to tell you about just these ones. Let me know in the comments of feedback what your thoughts are on these projects and others, and of course, follow me everywhere at _Grant Burton. Until next time though, subscribe to this channel and keep on watching.